You're a winner. Well, not you guys, but David's a winner. David won my 500 sub giveaway a while back. This is the first kind of Age of Sigmar model that I've done, and it was a lot of fun. Well, let's hop over to the table. I'll show you guys how I did it, and then I'll get this thing wrapped up and sent off. Sit tight, David. Model's on the way. Alright, this is the first time I've gotten to paint for somebody else in probably about 3 years. And I'll tell you what, it was a blast to do this. Trying to figure out how to turn their vision into a reality, and then giving them a final product that they can just really enjoy. Coming up on the screen now, you've got the paints that I used. Definitely take this as a guide. You don't need to go out and buy a bunch of pro acryl stuff. Just go ahead and use whatever paints you already have, and then apply the techniques we're going to be doing along the way. That way you get a really good end result, you get to play with new techniques, but you don't end up spending a lot of money on the way. In order to get a good base coat on this, I'm going to come in with some Stylorez Black, get a good solid base coat. Then I'm going to add white, and I'm going to work up through grays all the way to a white from the very top. It's going to give a lot of variety, and it's going to give me a shadow map to play with later. For these robes, I'm going to be doing a little bit of golden brown and some ivory. The idea here is to get the golden brown down, and then again, using a downward angle to pick out some of the areas that would get hit by a lot more light. From there, we're going to move over to some reds. The general concept here is to tie both the rider and the disc into each other. So I'm going to be trying to mimic the colors between the two. So you'll see the tan show up on both. You'll see these reds that I'm laying down now show up in both. And you'll see some blues show up in both later on. Really gives it a nice cohesive feel. And it really does cut down on the number of paints you gotta use. And now is the time to swap over and do a little more detail work. So I'm going to be using that same red on this armor trim. One thing that you'll probably notice by now is I did not paint the armor panels first because I was not thinking about it. So here I'm grabbing my silver, and I'm going to come back in and do the rest of the actual armor panels before doing the trim. Following that up, we're grabbing some umber, coming in and doing the staff. I'll also be applying this color to the book and to the feathers later on. In retrospect, it might be a little bit too much brown, but I think it works. In order to play that staff up a little bit, I'm going to be coming in and doing some of the texturing. All I'm going to do for this is go with ivory and try and pick out the raised areas, trying to bring that grain out. At this point, it's time to start working on his helmet, horns, head. I don't know what it is, but I'm going to come in with a flesh color and start picking out the areas where the eyeballs are. Then after that, I'm going to come back in with some more of my red that I laid down on the first pass up here and just punch this up. This has been thinned down to much more of a glaze consistency. It just really helps to punch that red home. For all the skin portions, I'm going to be sticking with a blue, similar to what they have in the illustration here. It's going to be mostly the legs, the hands, and the head. Feel free to make it whatever chaotic color you want. Then I'm going to mix in a little bit of white, and I'm going to start doing some highlights. I'm going to do a couple passes with increasing amounts of white in my paint. The facial details on this model are just really soft, so it's really important to come in with this step and pick those out and really reinforce them. Time to do some stippling, so go ahead and grab either your dedicated stippling brush or an old beater, because you do not want to use a nice one on this. What we're gaining from this is color variation, and we're getting a little bit of texture into our robe. Makes it look a lot less flat. After that, it's time to grab bold Pyrrole Red. I'm coming back in with this color to highlight my reds, give a little bit more depth and a little bit of brightness to it. I really hope this guy never needs glasses, because man, is that a lot of eyeballs. Time to grab the disc again, start doing a little more work on that. First things first is going to be to black out all these blades. From there, I'm grabbing the same colors that I used in the robe to work on his teeth. Why on earth he is standing in the mouth of this thing, I'm not really sure. If you guys know a good lore reason for this, please let me know, because I would actually be really interested in hearing that. At this point, I'm going to start working on the book. I want this book to be one of the focal points of the model. What I want to do with it, the vision here, is to make this glow coming out of the book, splashing across this guy's chest and his face, just put a little bit of visual interest center mask to kind of tie your eye into the model. In order to get that glow, I'm going to be using the airbrush here and just lightly coming in with a very, very transparent layer. Then I'll come in later with the brush and refine the edges to try and get a brighter glow. At this point, I'm going to grab Agrax Earthshade. I'm going to use this to pump up that contrast a little bit and get my recesses dark. Once it's down, I'm going to come back in with a wet brush and lift it off the raised surfaces, leaving my highs bright and the recesses really rich and dark. Then to push that even a little further, I'm going to come back in with ivory and I'm going to do a little bit of lining. I'm going to line out the edge of the robe and then several of the vertical lines, just to really emphasize the difference between that dark and light. At this point I wasn't very happy with the colors that I had going on near the eyes, so I decided to come back in with purple. You can see it's already applied here on the right hand side. I'm going to duplicate that on the left hand side. Now comes the point that I was not comfortable with. He had asked for NMM, and NMM is not really my wheelhouse, but I told him I would gladly try it out, send him some pictures. If he was happy, we'd hang on to it. If not, I'd just throw some silver over top and call it a day. Coming back into the mouth, I'm going to make these teeth a little bit brighter, and I'm just going to blend ivory out towards the tip and leaving that really nasty stained look at the base. What I'm doing here is trying to push a little bit of color into it. I felt like this flat surface was really missing something, and so I decided to try and get a little bit of blue into it. Then I came back in with that same watered down red that I had used up on his head and just pumped up the red, getting rid of that pink hue that was left behind. From there, a little bit of edge highlighting coming on. Got to make these things look super sharp. And then back to the Agrax Earthshade. Again, just trying to build up more layers, more interest in the piece. What's this? Vallejo Still Water. I'm going to play with this a little bit on the base. I've never used it before, but I wanted to, again, tie that blue in. And this seemed like the best way to go about it. That tiny little ink drop goes a long way in this stuff. So if you're going to use it sparingly. Time to get this guy mounted on the disc and see what that final effect looks like. Here we got it next to the reference. Obviously, GW Painter is going to be a little bit better than me, but I'm pretty happy with this thing. I had a blast trying out that non-metallic metal again. And I really just appreciated the chance to paint for somebody else again. Thanks for sticking around this far, guys. Hit that subscribe, ring that bell, because at 1,000, I'm going to be doing this exact same thing again. I'll be giving away $60 worth of models, plus 10 hours of painting time, so you can be the next David. So keep hobbying, and I'll see you guys in the next one.